was 6 o'clock in the evening when Ricardo Almeida walked through the glass door of his own bar, dressed in simple clothes, a plain grey shirt with no brand, no tie, and none of the expensive watches he always wore to board meetings. No one there knew that this ordinary-looking man, with an unshaven face and discreet glasses, was the true owner of the place. He had bought that establishment 3 months earlier through a shell company, precisely to see with his own eyes how the employees treated customers when they thought no one important was watching. Ricardo was not the kind of man who trusted reports and spreadsheets to understand the soul of a business. He believed that the truth of a company lived in the small gestures, in the invisible exchanges between those who serve and those being served. And that was why, on that Friday afternoon, he decided to blend in among the ordinary customers, without security, without warning, without any sign that the man sitting there was the one who signed the contracts, paid the salaries, and decided the future of that bar. He chose a table in the corner, near the window overlooking the busy street, where he could observe the entire room without being noticed. The bar was almost empty at that hour, with only a few customers finishing their afternoon coffee and a couple speaking quietly near the counter. That was when he saw her for the first time. A young woman wearing a red apron tied around her waist was carrying a tray with the delicacy of someone who was already exhausted but refused to show it. Her movements were precise, almost automatic, like someone who had repeated those gestures thousands of times. And yet, there was something in her eyes that caught Ricardo's attention, a mix of deep exhaustion and silent dignity. Her name was Beatriz, and she had been a waitress at that bar for almost 2 years. Beatriz approached Ricardo's table with a professional smile, the kind one learns to wear even when the body is tired and the feet ache after hours of standing. She politely asked what he would like to order, and Ricardo answered simply, "A black coffee, no sugar." Just like that, as he always ordered when he wanted to observe without standing out. As she wrote the order in a small paper notebook, Ricardo noticed something strange. The waitress's hands trembled slightly, almost imperceptibly, and there was a shadow of fatigue under her eyes that no makeup could completely hide. He decided to watch more carefully, pretending to be absorbed in his phone, while in reality, he was paying close attention to every movement that woman made. Beatriz walked away toward the counter, and Ricardo noticed that she exchanged very few words with her co-workers, focused only on finishing her tasks. There was no time for conversation, no room for rest. The rhythm of that bar seemed to demand more from her than any human being should have to give in a single work shift. Minutes later, Beatriz returned with the steaming coffee, carefully balancing the cup on its saucer. It was at that exact moment that everything began to change. A customer at the table next to him, a man in an expensive suit with an impatient expression, raised his voice and complained that his food was taking too long. He tapped his fingers lightly on the table, like someone demanding that a clock move faster. Beatriz approached him and apologized politely, explaining that the kitchen had a large order at that moment. But the man insisted, using harsh words, treating her as if she had no value at all, as if she were merely a part of a machine that was supposed to function without flaws and without a voice of her own. That was when Ricardo, sitting only a few feet away, heard the sentence that would change everything. Beatriz, her voice trembling but still firm, looked the irritated customer in the eyes and replied, "I'm doing my best." 3 simple words. But there was something in the way she said them, not as a cowardly excuse, not as surrender, but as the absolute truth of someone who was giving everything she had, even while exhausted, even while underpaid, even without any recognition. There was no self-pity in her voice, only the calm certainty of someone who knew she was fulfilling her role with integrity, regardless of how she was treated. Ricardo froze with the coffee in his hand, the cup suspended halfway to his lips. Those 3 words echoed inside him in a way that no board meeting, no financial report, no market analysis had ever managed to do. It was as if time, for a moment, had stopped completely inside that bar. He thought about his own story, about a life that now seemed distant but still lived somewhere in his memory. There had been a time when he had also said those same words, years earlier, when he worked double shifts at 2 jobs to support his family, before the fortune, before the businesses, before any success. Back then, no one seemed to notice his effort, and he also repeated to himself in silence that he was doing his best, even when his best never seemed to be enough. In that instant, Ricardo understood that he had forgotten what it truly meant to do your best when you have little and still give everything. Success had distanced him from that simple truth, and now, sitting there disguised in his own bar, he felt confronted by a waitress who did not even know who he was. The impatient customer, unaware of the weight of those words, merely muttered something and went back to looking at his phone. Indifferent. But for Ricardo, that moment had become a turning point. In the following days, Ricardo returned to the bar several times, always disguised, always watching from a distance, always choosing different tables so as not to raise suspicion. He wanted to understand who Beatrice was, not only as an employee, but as a person. He wanted to know whether those 3 words reflected only a moment of exhaustion or whether they truly represented the character of someone extraordinary. By discreetly speaking with other employees, pretending to be casually curious, Ricardo discovered that Beatrice supported her sick mother, alone in a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. Her mother suffered from a chronic health condition that required expensive medication and frequent medical appointments, and Beatrice, as an only daughter, had taken on the entire financial responsibility for the family. He also discovered that she worked 2 shifts almost every day, often without a proper break to rest or eat correctly. Even so, she never disrespected a single customer, not even the rudest ones, not even when she was treated with disdain by people who had never experienced the same struggles. Ricardo also discovered that the bar manager, a man named Sergio, treated Beatrice and the other employees with extreme strictness, threatening dismissal whenever someone asked for a day off or questioned the work schedule. Sergio believed that fear was the best way to keep productivity high, and because of that, he created an environment of constant tension, where no one felt safe enough to complain or ask for help. The more Ricardo watched, the more he noticed the contrast between the treatment Beatrice received and the genuine dedication she offered in return. She never complained openly, never showed anger in front of customers, even though inside she must certainly have been carrying an immense burden. There was a quiet strength in her that Ricardo had rarely found, even among experienced and well-paid executives. During one of his visits, Ricardo witnessed another revealing moment. A customer had accidentally dropped a significant amount of money under the table without noticing. Beatrice found the bills while cleaning the area, and without hesitation, returned everything to the customer, who had already left and had to be called back. She did not think twice, even knowing that the amount could have made a significant difference in her own difficult life. Ricardo then decided that he would not simply keep watching from afar. That woman deserved far more than she was receiving, and he, as the true owner of that bar, had the power to change that reality. If you have ever been through a similar situation, where you gave your best even without being recognized, leave a comment sharing your story. I want to know if you too have ever said at some point in your life that you were doing your best. Before revealing anything, Ricardo spent an entire night reflecting on the best way to act. He did not want to simply give a one-time reward, like a generous tip or a passing compliment that would be forgotten in a few days. He wanted to do something that would truly change that woman's path, something that recognized not just one moment, but an entire character built over years of hardship. Ricardo also reflected on the kind of leader he had become over the years. Had he himself, in his position of power, forgotten to notice the people who sustained his businesses every single day? How many other Beatrices existed in his companies, working hard, being mistreated, without him ever knowing? That reflection led him to a decision greater than simply rewarding one employee. He decided that the bar would become a model of how to treat people with dignity, and that Beatrice would be the central piece of that transformation. On a Friday afternoon, exactly 1 week after their first encounter, Ricardo returned to the bar, but this time he was not there merely to observe. He asked to speak with the manager privately, and it was then, in the reserved office at the back of the establishment, that he revealed his true identity as the owner of the bar. Sergio, the manager, instantly turned pale, stammering awkward apologies and trying to justify his behaviour over the past months. He feared, rightly so, the consequences of his harsh actions, and the environment of fear he had created among the employees. But Ricardo was not there simply to humiliate anyone or to exercise power in a vengeful way. He had made a broader and fairer decision. He informed Sergio that there would be significant changes in the bar's management, and that the treatment given to employees would be completely reviewed from that moment on. Then Ricardo asked them to call Beatrice into the office. She entered the room visibly nervous, not understanding why she had been called, perhaps imagining that she had made some serious mistake. Her heart was pounding, and her hands once again trembled slightly. With calmness and kindness in his voice, Ricardo told her the entire truth, who he really was, why he had been disguised for weeks, and what he had heard on that day when she answered the impatient customer with those 3 simple words. He described in detail the impact that sentence had had on him and how it had made him rethink his own journey and his values as a leader. Beatrice listened to everything in silence, tears beginning to form in her eyes, unable to believe what was happening. She had never imagined that a simple moment of exhaustion, a sentence spoken almost without thinking, could have reached the ears of the true owner of the establishment. Then Ricardo made his proposal. As recognition for her dedication, her work ethic, and her exemplary character, he offered Beatrice the position of general manager of that bar, replacing Sergio, who would be transferred to another role within the company. Without decision-making power over the team, the new position would come with a salary 3 times higher than what she earned as a waitress, as well as health benefits that would even cover her mother's medical treatment. Ricardo also guaranteed that, under her new management, she would have the autonomy to implement more humane schedules for the entire team, including guaranteed days off and a more respectful work environment. Beatrice, in tears, asked why he had done all of that, why he had chosen her among so many employees who passed through the bar every day. Ricardo simply smiled, his own eyes also moist, and replied that sometimes it is necessary to disguise yourself as nobody in order to finally see who truly deserves everything. He added that people like her, who maintain their dignity even in the hardest moments, are exactly the kind of leadership any business needs in order to grow in a fair and sustainable way. Profit alone was not enough, Ricardo said. It was necessary to build something that respected the people who made that profit possible. In the following months under Beatrice's new management, the bar underwent a remarkable transformation. The work environment became lighter, the employees reported greater satisfaction, and even the quality of customer service visibly improved, reflecting the culture of respect implemented by the new manager. Beatrice never forgot her own origins. She became known for treating every employee with the same dignity she had always wished for herself, making sure that no one had to go through the same hardships she had faced for so long. Her mother, now with access to proper medical treatment, improved significantly in health, and Beatrice finally, for the first time in many years, was able to breathe without the constant weight of financial worry crushing every decision in her life. As for Ricardo, that experience profoundly changed the way he led his businesses. He began to occasionally visit, always in disguise, other establishments under his administration, not to inspect them with suspicion, but to make sure that stories like Beatrice's did not go unnoticed in any corner of his empire. Before we continue to the final ending of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stories like this, about character, dignity, and true recognition, are published here every week, and you won't want to miss any of them. 1 year after that unexpected encounter, Ricardo returned to the bar on a quiet afternoon, this time without any disguise. He found Beatrice fully in command of the room, guiding the team with the same gentleness as always, but now with the confidence of someone who had finally found her place. They exchanged a knowing smile, remembering the day when 3 simple words had changed the course of 2 completely different lives. Ricardo ordered, as always, a black coffee, no sugar, and Beatrice, with her own hands, prepared the drink and served it to him personally, as a silent gesture of gratitude that no words could ever fully translate. This story teaches us that a person's true wealth is not only in what they possess, but in the character they show when they believe no one is watching. And it also teaches us that recognizing the genuine effort of the people around us can transform not only one life, but an entire environment around us. If this story touched you in any way, leave your like, share it with someone who needs to hear this message today, and comment below what you took from this reflection. See you in the next story.